Welcome!
So you're wanting to go on an epic road trip this year? We've got some tips to help you out.
We're going to talk about how to plan where to go, when to go, what to research, then how to commit and make your reservations, and then very last of all, we'll go over our favorite apps and tools that we use to make this a successful trip for you. I'm Katie.
And I'm Ryan. And we love going on road trips. They started out as just going for a day or two close by. Now we're adventuring further away from home, and we're going for longer periods of time. We wish we could go all over all the time, but obviously people have jobs and things they need to do. So we want to help you pull off this trip so you can have efficient use of time and have the most fun possible.
So the first thing you need to decide is, where do you want to go? The sky's the limit. Do you want to go to the beach, the mountains, national parks? Where's your top destination?
After you decide where you want to go, now you have to figure out when and how long you can go. You have to keep in mind that some places are closed off season, or if you want to go skiing, you can't do that in the summer. That's when you go to the beach. We like to go during off season so that there's less crowds and our reservations are easier to get.
The other thing to keep in mind is some places aren't open all year long. For example, when we went to Mount Rainier last year, some of the roads there were closed because they were so snow-packed. And when we go to Mesa Verde next, we're going to try to go closer to the summer, because when we went to Mesa Verde 2 years ago, half of the national park was closed because the roads were just too icy. As you're deciding when to take your next trip, you need to keep in mind, how long can you be gone away from home in your job? Do you just have a weekend? Do you have 1 week? Or do you have 2 weeks?
As a family that homeschools, we have the ability to go when we want. So we like to go during the off season. We really like to go in May or September. These are months that are still good weather. Most things are open, but we don't have to fight the crowds. The beaches aren't full of people. We're not waiting in line for an hour to get into the national park. So that's the time that we prefer to go. We know that not everyone has the opportunity to go during these times. So find the time that's best for you, and let's get it on the calendar and start planning it.
Number 3, you're going to do some research to help you plug the places you want to go into your calendar for when you're going to go there. You're going to want to look up each location and talk to friends, look at travel vlogs, and determine how much time you need or want at each location. Then go ahead and go into Google Maps and figure out how much drive time you need between each location or destination. And make sure that you factor in about 20% more time if you're pulling a trailer, have an RV, and or have children. For us, it takes quite a bit longer to get somewhere than what Google Maps says it will take, because we make more frequent stops and we don't go above the speed limit. Then we also make sure that we factor in time, especially on longer trips, to have a day that we do a bigger grocery run, that we can go to the laundromat, and then make sure that every few days you're just leaving spare time for downtime so that your kids can roast some s'mores over the fire or just have time to be kids. Here's what our rough draft of our trip plans look like. We just print out a blank calendar and we put in our favorite, most important destinations first on the days that we want to be at them, and then we fill in other things from there, and that's when we can also go in and add where we're going to stay too.
As you're putting things in this calendar, keep in mind that every few days you're going to need a spot that you can dump your water, you can refill water, you can charge up your batteries. You don't always need to have a nice, expensive camp spot, but periodically you do need a place that you can top off your tanks and fill up your stuff.
And in between, you can stay in cheap or free places that don't have hookups.
Number 4, it's time to commit. Now you can make your reservations. Now that you've got your plan laid out and what you want to see and when you want to see it, we log on and make reservations at different campsites. Some of our reservations are at national parks, state parks, or private facilities. Some places allow you to make reservations 6 months in advance or 4 months in advance for campsites. Some private places will do reservations a year in advance. So you have to keep in mind, even though you're planning your trip, you may have to make different reservations at different times. When we went and did a Pacific Northwest trip, we were making reservations to the minute that they were allowed. 6 months in advance, to the minute that they became available, we were making reservations because some of the places we were staying at were really hard to get reservations to. But by getting those reservations that far in advance, it made it easier to fill in the rest of the areas.
We found that it's worth it to make your reservations early. Usually the cancellation fee is small, so it's better to reserve the places you want to go to plenty early, and then if you have to cancel last minute, that's okay. At least you have the reservation, and that's really important for places that are really popular and hard to get into.
Early on in our planning of our trips, we get these maps, big road maps, and we have a generic map of the United States. These just help us plan the routes we want to go. And the nice thing about these paper maps, you may think we're old-fashioned, but sometimes you're in places where your phone does not get service, and these maps can help bridge those gaps. You can also kind of see things as you're pulled back. You can see the whole state easier than on your phone. You can see where rest stops are, points of interest. These maps have details and information that you may not see or know about if you're just looking on them on your phone.
So Ryan's the designated driver and I'm the designated navigator, and I really love having a paper map in my lap with my phone on top of it, and so I'm using both so that I can be looking ahead on the paper map, and then on my phone I can be looking at what's just in the very near future. Our favorite apps that we like to use in the car are Campendium, Gas Buddy, and Google Maps.
Campendium is an app that shows you areas that you are headed to, and it gives you spots you can camp for free. That's called boondocking. Usually it's in a remote off the side of a dirt road. Sometimes those can be kind of hit or miss on availability and getting to them. Campendium also lists dump stations. It lists where you can find private RV resorts. So we use it to start finding where we can make reservations.
Let's say that you want to find camping near Forks, Washington, which is what we wanted to do about a year ago because we wanted to visit the mountainous part of Olympic National Park and the beach part. So you go into Campendium on your browser and just type in Forks, Washington, and then your map will populate with all the different places there are to stay nearby. There are private sites, national parks. It shows you where there's a dump station, and we ended up choosing to stay at Bogachiel State Park, and you can see here that people gave it 4 out of 5 stars. You can see some pictures of the campground and reviews that other people left to help you decide if that is where you want to go. So Google Maps is an essential app for us. We use it for day-to-day driving, getting to our next destination, finding our campsites. I keep this paper in my car at all times on our road trips, and it has the dates, where we're headed to, the actual address of our locations, so that when I enter that into Google Maps, we end up at the actual address at the end. It tells me how many miles we have to drive and how many hours and minutes Google Maps thinks it will take us. And then of course I keep in mind that it's gonna take us 20% longer than what Google Maps says. And then as we're driving, our next most favorite app is Gas Buddy. It'll tell you the prices of all the surrounding gas stations or gas stations coming up on your route. And I use that in conjunction with Google Maps because sometimes the cheapest gas station is not the gas station you want to go to if you have a Suburban and a trailer. I use Google Maps to make sure that the gas station is going to be convenient to get into and convenient to get out of.
You can do this.
I know you've got somewhere you want to go, so decide where that place is, decide when you're going to go, do your research, make a commitment, make those reservations, download the apps that we love, and have a great trip.